I'm good. Did you miss me?
I did a lot. A lot.
I really don't want to get your channel deleted, Reed. That you're asking for serious trouble if I answer that question.
Well, then stop fucking talking about us, man.
How much perceived value do you think we will lose?
Well, I mean, we lose a lot.
The establishment Republicans are not Republican in name only. That's what the GOP is.
So many people want everyone else to come to libertarianism the same way they did.
But the slave mentality is praised.
All right. Thanks,
I want
Blake.
your phone to blow up with notifications every time this show is on. Thank you, Reed.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thanks for checking in for another episode of The Naturalist Capitalist. Before you do anything, look in the description for the link to Odyssey. Go subscribe to me there because we all know YouTube is not forever. We don't know how long. Could be another year, another 5 years. Could be, who knows. Anyway, just go subscribe to me on Odyssey. Anyways, we've got Tommy Salmons from the Year Zero podcast back on the show. How you doing tonight, man?
What's up, brother?
Not much, man. I'm on the road, obviously. I'm in a really, really cheap motel in the middle of nowhere. And it was quite a day. I was, it's funny. A lot of people who do this podcasting stuff, it's all they do. But like you and me, we actually have to work. And it's, I don't know. Let's see. Yesterday I drove up into Montana and unloaded a 100-ton crane and then drove in a blizzard for about an hour in the dark and then finally pulled over. And then this morning we took off and there was ice everywhere and there was fog. You can only see like 200 feet. And the booster on my trailer had too much air in it. So it started whipping all over the road. Luckily, nobody died. We pulled off, took a couple hours off. And then we kept going and just ran into trouble, all the way through. Finally got back into Idaho and we're spending the night here. But it was a day, man. Holy shit.
Were you building moisture? Is that why you were whipping everywhere? Is that what was happening?
Well, there was ice on the road, and I had a 3+2 setup, and then the rear booster, for some reason, the air just wasn't equalizing.
That's what I'm wondering, if maybe your airline was building up moisture and it was starting to freeze in there or some shit.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's one of these newer trailers that it's computerized. Like, have you ever heard of these like auto shimming trailers? It's one of those where you like the computer is actually supposed to adjust the air instead of doing it manually everywhere. And I'm not a big fan of that because then if something goes wrong, you're like, it was so funny. I was walking through it with a tech who was in Texas or something from Aspen Trailer. He was like telling me, well, you press this button and you do this and then you reset the computer this way. And it's just like, God damn it. Why can't we just have like the old fucking the old valve
like just give me a valve to pull, man. Like what the fuck's happening? What do I do? Jesus. Yeah, no, I've never had one of those trailers, man. That's a pain. That all this new stuff they're putting on these trucks is such a pain in the butt, man. They're making it impossible for drivers to be drivers anymore. You have to be a technician of some sort. You have to be a engineer to deal with some of this stuff. It's ridiculous. I had a truck the other day, 1,800 miles on this fucking truck. Like it was nothing. And the shutdown engine light, the red shutdown engine light popped on me. And I was like, dude, it's 6:30 in the morning. This thing hadn't been driven in 12 hours. Like what the hell's going on? And come to find out, had something to do. Like, we were getting all these alerts, all these exhaust, temperature alerts and all this crap. I couldn't get it to do a parked regen for the life of me. I sat there and I tried for an hour. It would not do a parked regen. But then we got the guys come in with a computer. Oh, well, somebody increased the idle speed from second gear to fourth gear. And so it screwed up the entire computer. And so they had to reset everything and do it. Was like, man, all right, man. All this stuff is such a pain in the butt. The crap we're having to deal with right now in the trucking industry is so ridiculous.
You have to work for NASA to change the clock. Even it's the dumbest shit ever.
Yeah, it's a nightmare, man. Dealing with this shit is a nightmare. And then they want to complain about, oh, we ain't got enough truckers over the road. Well, I don't know why. It can't be because y'all keep making shit too complicated to look at and go, what the? I mean, we used to drive, man. Like we used to read maps and get product from point A to point B. That was something that we did do back in the day, but not anymore.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, I was on my friend Liam's show a while back, telling him about how the ELDs take the human element out of common sense or just regular decision making. Because if you're going to be 1 minute over on your ELD to reach a certain destination, if the next closest destination is like 45 minutes from where you're trying to get, you have to cut off 45 minutes from, you have to waste all that time. You have to be like, nope, I can't do it because I'll be, if I get slowed down at all or whatever, and especially if your truck's governed at 62 miles per hour or whatever, even if you're in an 80 mile per hour zone in Utah or something, you can't even get there in time. So it just takes all the common sense, all the human element, all the intelligence out of it completely.
Yeah, I remember listening. I was sitting there a few years back listening to an old trucker like complain about all the new drivers being just steering wheel holders. And when I first heard it, it was like old timers, they're all going to be old timers. But as things progressed and I started noticing, the ELDs were pushed down our throats, and then they were governing everything at like 62, 65 miles. And I was like, yeah, like we have no choice here. We have no decisions to make. It's just point the truck in the right direction is all drivers do. And I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, somebody I'm sure you've heard of, Matthew Ho, and he's running for office and under the Green Party in North Carolina, and he and I were chatting back and forth about trucking, and I was just like, look, man, I was like, thing is, you're not going to be able to keep old truckers on the road, people that have experience and know what the hell's going on, that understand the industry, if the government keeps subsidizing trucking companies and allowing them to push wages down. Like that's just it's not gonna help us any. And so a lot of the trucker shortage is due to government policy and these over regulations and pushing all this stuff down our throats. We haven't seen a drop, a massive drop in the amount of truckers getting in accidents. Actually, you probably see the opposite. You probably see more truckers getting in accidents because most of these guys out there on the road have less than 6 months experience anymore.
Yeah. So obviously there's been this vaccination push for truckers going over the border into Canada. And you've got a friend who's actually gone up there to protest with everybody. I actually don't know a ton about that situation. I just remember when they were first floating the idea, and now they're trying to push it through. But what's your buddy doing up there? What's going on?
He texted me today. He was just like, look, man, he's like, I'm heading up to the Canadian border. I'm going to go protest with my brothers up there. He lives in New York now, and he drives truck local in the New York area, but he's originally from Canada. His father and his grandfather were both truckers out of Canada. So he's third generation trucker, and he's driven all over the world. He drove road trains in Australia. He's done ice road trucking in Canada. Like he's done it all, all the crazy shit that truckers talk about. Like the job includes, he's been there. And he was just like, nah, I'm going to go up there. I'm going to stand with my boys. I'm, 3 hours away, 2 hours away, whatever. I'm going to go catch me a border town and, and hold the protest signs. And I'm like, good, man, go do it. And this is a major deal. And a lot of people don't understand that. So how much of American lumber comes from Canada and how much of Canadian food comes from America. That when you look at these pictures of Canadian store shelves empty, you can thank the truckers for standing up and saying, nah, we're not playing your games. You're not going to mandate we do anything to our bodies. Like, you lift these mandates and we'll get your food to you. And that's what's happening. And it's horrible that average people have to suffer, but it's average people that are being attacked in this process. And so as long as, I don't think people realize that how much of the pulse of the supply chain depends on trucking and what we do on a day-to-day basis, and that's you cut your veins, right? You're going to bleed out. And that's kind of what's going to happen if they keep going after truckers the way they're doing right now.
Yeah. I want to get your opinion. I don't know how much you know about it. My information's pretty surface level on this one too, but and I don't even remember the guy's name. That shows how much I've really looked into it. But the guy in Colorado who went down the mountain and didn't take the runaway truck ramp, and I think he ended up killing 3 people. I don't know enough.
Was it only 3 people? I had read like a lot of conflicting stories. I had read like up to 27 people. Like, I don't know.
Oh, really? Oh, shit. Yeah. I thought it was 3, but I don't know if anyone in the live chat knows. So obviously with the amount of information, I'm not going to make an extreme judgment on that. But from what I know about it, like, it sounds like the guy should kind of have the book thrown at him. I mean, if you go down a hill with faulty equipment and you don't take you don't take the runaway truck ramp, I don't know. I mean, I can understand, repercussions being taken against you. And there was a lot of protesting over his sentence. And I mean, maybe 110 years is kind of rough, but I was just wanting to get your thoughts on that in general, since we don't really know the super specifics of that, but just the idea in general. Like, if you actually do fuck something up really bad like that, in my opinion, like, if you actually don't get punished, that kind of, I don't know, that's kind of offensive to the rest of us who, like, actually take care of our equipment and pay attention to what's going on. And I don't know, but what are your thoughts on that whole deal?
Well, runaway truck ramps in like the Colorado area in general aren't quite as prominent as they are in California. So you're getting a lot of people acting. I don't even know if there was a runaway truck ramp near him. I
know he went by one that he should have taken, but I do know that. I don't know.
Oh, okay. See, I wasn't even aware of that, but I do know that he was running over speed. He was going 85 miles an hour down the interstate, and he was going downhill, which he should have never done. Right. So obviously, yeah, there should be criminal repercussions for it, but you also have to understand if his brakes went out, how long had he been driving that day? Were his brakes good when he left, and did something happen in the process? Things happen when you're on the road. One of the things that always irritated me was getting pulled over for lights being out, because I do my pre-trip in the morning. My lights are working, right? So if one of my lights went out 5-6 hours in the day, then why the hell are you writing me a ticket for the light being out? Why aren't you just like, hey, just let you know this is going on. You have this issue. You may have missed it. Okay, fine. That's not an issue. So if obviously the guy was breaking the law. He was doing something he shouldn't have done, running 85 miles an hour on an interstate, going down a hill, obviously dangerous. were his brakes faulty the day before? Like, we should, there should be like some sort of investigation as to that before you sentence the guy to 110 years. I did think 110 years was a bit much. I know a lot of truckers boycotted going into Colorado. I don't even know if that's still going on, but you know, that was,
I'm going into Colorado tomorrow, so I'll find out. I guess. We'll
yeah,
see.
I guess you'll figure it out. But yeah, so he was wrong, but yeah, the state was obviously wrong in the sentencing and the way that they looked at it. He didn't set out to kill anybody, right? It wasn't murder, and you know, he certainly didn't have over an ounce of marijuana on him. So I don't know why he deserves a mandatory minimum in that situation. That's part of the problem with our with the whole government and the legal situation that we deal with is these broad strokes, one size fits all, and it's not always that way. There are different situations that people deal with, and reasons to look at each individual situation as something, as an offset, as an outlier, and try to judge what that particular situation was. Should the guy have gone to prison? Probably. Like, I don't know every detail of the situation. I just know a few things that I read, and it seemed to me like he was being a little bit, he was being careless. Should the guy look at 110 years, the rest of his life in prison? Nah, probably not. He probably should lose his ability to ever hold a CDL again, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I know they reduced the sentence down to 10 years, I think. So I don't know. That seems pretty fair. But yeah, it's just one of those things, like, I mean, because you know, we do get screwed over by so much shit. I thought it was just weird how everyone was striking for this guy. You know, I mean, I had mixed feelings on it. Like you said, I thought 110 was a little high, but at the same time, like, it was like people were not going into Colorado because of what happened to this guy. And it's like, I don't know. I mean, we have a high stakes job, and if you fuck it up that bad and end up killing people, I don't know. Like, there should be pretty hefty consequences. But yeah, I don't know. I think we pretty much agree on that.
Yeah, it's I mean, you gotta understand too. We live in a really weird time, man. Like, people take up the weirdest. They just take up the strangest, you know, purpose and cause, and they turn some of the like that. There was that girl that went after that other girl with a knife that the officer shot, right? And it was like, yeah, she was attacking another girl with a knife. If police are to exist for anything, it'd be for that, right? It was like, yeah. So the way these causes are taken up right now, it's very odd. It's really hard for me to just get on board with, but it's also hard for me to just brush over and pretend like the police are in the right, because I understand. I did a podcast after George Floyd, and I called it George Floyd and the blowback riots, right? And it's not because I believe all the hype around Black Lives Matter. It's not because I believe all that. But like let's take the Muslim community that pulled off 9/11, right? Like, we can understand, like, okay, y'all been bombed for 30 years. Like, there have been like shitty fucking things that have gone on. The policy of the United States has hurt you. And so I don't defend anybody who committed a terrorist attack on 9/11, but at the same time, I can kind of say, okay, well, it's blowback. We kind of got to look at some of this other stuff the same way. You got to kind of say, all right, there's been enough crap going on by the criminal justice system, by the police, by law enforcement, to where people are frustrated. They're pissed off and they want it to be better and to do what it says it's supposed to do. Right. And we've seen enough situations to where it's not, where it's protecting the elites and the institutions, and it's not protecting the people, that people are mad. And so you get blowback, right? And I look at it the same way. It's blowback. And so as much as one particular situation may not be justifiable, it's kind of like a conglomeration of all these things, one on top of the other, and it builds up. It's like, if you've ever been in a relationship and she nitpicks or he nitpicks at you and picks fights here and there, and you're like trying to avoid the fight, eventually it's going to come to that point where you're going to blow up. And I think that's what we're seeing. I think it's just the addition, just one thing on top of the other, on top of the other, on top of the other. And everybody's looking for a cause, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's sort of like, I mean, when you're married for 20 years, excuse me. And then after, thing after thing after thing happens. And so then, your wife forgets to fill the salt shaker, and then you just fly off the handle over that.
Right.
This trucker getting 110 years for killing multiple people is forgetting to fill the salt shaker. It's like, when you look at it as an isolated incident, it's like, why are you so upset about that? Didn't he kind of deserve that? But then you're right. Like, you take everything that's been done to truckers over the years, of course they're going to like flip out. And then if there's a big moment like this, which this is kind of like George, I shouldn't say it's like George Floyd, because I don't think, even though he was a shit human being, like, he didn't deserve to, die for what he did. But
right.
It's a similar circumstance. Like, when there's so many other isolated incidents that you could choose that are like obvious violation of truckers' rights or of, people who are brutalized by the police, it doesn't matter, because it's these incidents that happened were big and they've gotten a lot of media publicity, and so those are just going to be the ones that people latch onto, and you're going to have what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's the straw that breaks the camel's back. That's why, that's what you're looking at. It's not, it isn't the totality of the picture, and that's what people need to understand when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah. This kind of segues well into what the discussion was going to be about tonight. It's, obviously the mainstream media is just terrible. They just purposefully fuel all these divides, and they try to throw gasoline on the fire where they can. And they're obviously pushing their own stupid narrative that has so many holes in it, and everyone can see it. The problem is there's a tendency amongst people like you and me who are trying to tell the truth to actually end up becoming sort of the same thing, like in a different way. So it's really easy to become a contrarian to whatever the mainstream media is saying, or it's easy to become so sick of everything that they've pushed that you create not even necessarily just a contrarian perspective, but you only show small parts of the narrative, you only show small parts of the story that fit your narrative that goes against whatever the mainstream is saying, when if you tell the whole story, it's a little bit more in the middle. It's a tough thing to try to navigate. But you're the one who actually brought this idea up to me a few weeks ago, just the idea that, we need to really be creating an alternative and trying to share each other's shows and try to, basically build a network of independent thought. But it's just really hard because we're people and we are corruptible, and it's easy to basically become what we have set out to destroy. But why don't you pontificate on that a little bit? Just give your thoughts.
Well, yeah, like being a contrarian isn't like the end all be all. And you and I probably don't agree on every single issue completely. Like, I don't know. I've never really sat down and talked to you about issues. We just talk just in general because we're buddies. But, you know, there are so many great voices in the libertarian space and in the liberty sphere that it just seems to me like you got a $1 trillion a year propaganda campaign in your corporate press. And I get on Twitter, or I talk to libertarians all the time, and they're always fighting with each other. And it's always like this battle. And it's like, okay, like, why are we fighting each other? Right? Like, I don't know of any libertarian podcaster that wants to control your life. They don't want control of your life. I don't care who it is. I don't care how much you disagree with them. I guarantee you, I know the person, and I can tell you, they don't care enough about your life to want to control you. So my whole point is, instead of all this infighting, let's focus on the big targets. Let's focus on what's actually ushering in tyranny into our space at the moment. And it's not libertarian podcasters. I can guarantee you that. Libertarian podcasters have zero influence at this point in time. And if you want libertarian podcasters to have influence, then the best thing you can do is be listening to libertarian podcasters, figure out which one of us is more alike with the person you're trying to reach, and sharing that podcast with that person. Whereas I might not speak to everybody. Reed might speak to somebody. Pete Quinones might speak to somebody. Liberty Lockdown might speak to somebody. Dave Smith might speak to somebody. Like, you have to like strategize how you're fighting this battle of tyranny that's right in front of you. And it ain't about like separating all of us, pulling us apart, like stretching these cords thin. That's not helping. That's not solving the problem. The problem's right there in front of us. And we're too busy inwardly focused to see the problem and to address the problem. And it's just, I find it annoying more than anything. I'm just like, this is ridiculous.
Remember me a year ago, that was the center of what I was saying, is like, why are we all fighting each other when we agree on 99% of everything and the enemy is very obvious? I think what I've realized the problem is actually getting too close with too many people. Like, the best way for us to all get along and keep doing our thing is mostly have, like, you and I talk a lot. We have each other's numbers, we can call each other, and that's cool. But not every podcaster should be that way with every other podcaster, is what I've found out. Like, there are people that I shouldn't have been like that with, that I was. That I was just like, I got too close to them, and then, when things get away, like, if I mean, if you're gonna come after, one of my close friends, then I'm gonna say something about it. I feel like that's what we need to actually be able to unite more easily. Like a giant this drama. Did you hear what so and so said about it? And it seems that's what's driving most of it apart, I would say.
Yeah, well, you broke up a lot there. I don't know if you have bad signal or what, but I think I got the general gist of what you were saying, and I agree with you. It's not about being friends with all the Liberty podcasters. What it is about finding the right message. Whose message is best for the intended audience. I don't have to like you. It doesn't matter to me if I like you. I don't care. I'm not going to disparage your message if I think your message is going to draw somebody else from the corporate narrative and the propaganda that's being pushed. See, because like I've been saying for a while, like the biggest threat that we face right now is ESG scores. Like when everybody was like seriously focused on the possibility of a vaccine passport, I was telling everybody, no, this is a piece. This is a piece of the puzzle. ESG is the entire thing. All right. So ESG scores is the way that they can do like they did with Alex Jones, and they can attack your banking, and they can make sure that they did this with what's his name, the My Pillow guy the other day, where they took his banking away from him. Like they're doing this. They're going after people's banking, your ability to access your finances, your funds, your way of like providing for your children, like is being taken from you. That is the biggest threat at this moment. The biggest threat to you is not the libertarian podcaster down the road that you don't like. I don't care if I like you. If your message resonates with my next door neighbor more than my message resonates with my next door neighbor, I'm going to give my next door neighbor your message, because we have to fight the bigger fight at the moment. We can't be too inwardly focused on the bullshit that's going on around us. Yes, we have this like autistic community of, you know, retards that want to fucking fight with each other. All right, whatever, like fight with each other. But for that to be your major focus, for owning that meaningless nobody to be your ultimate focus, or chasing clout, or whatever you're doing, you know, whether you're Nick Sarwark or whoever, like if your focus is not on combating the tyranny that's coming down through the corporations by edict of government, then you're like not focused on the right thing. And so that's what we need to be focused on. This is where we should be pointing our attention to. These things that the corporations are being utilized as military arms of the United States government, and they're being used to choke off these relationships and these communities from each other, and we can't allow that to happen. So all the attention should be on the corporate tyranny that is being pushed down our throats, and not to be ultra focused on, oh, well, he said a no word, or she said I identify as whatever. Who cares? Like, I don't care. Like, if their message resonates with people, get that message in front of the people it resonates with. We can take care of all that other nonsense later. We don't have to deal with it today.
Am I actually coming through clear now? Can you understand me?
Got you perfectly. Yes.
Right. Yeah. This is everyone watches my show half for the technical difficulties. It's like an endearing part of me at this point. But
it's like waiting for Boogie to interrupt my show. It's not a big deal.
But what I was saying, where I broke up, I don't think this part made it through, is, you know, people there, half the drama shit that goes on that I've noticed in the last year is stuff that I shouldn't have been involved with, and nobody involved should have been involved with at all. So it seems that everybody's trying to be friends when we should be mostly okay with being acquaintances. Like, you know, you and I talk a lot. We're friends, and I've got other friends like Clint and Dave and Ryan. But, you know, the circle's pretty small now of people who I actually consider real friends and really talk to. And so many of these people want everybody to be their good friend. And then the problem you run into is people get into stupid turf wars and shit. And then you have to take a side when you're in the middle of some shit that you shouldn't be in the first place. So if we're all just like, you know, if you find your good friends and stick with your good friends, and then you're happy just like kind of being acquaintances with everybody else, I think that's mostly the way to go, because otherwise you're just gonna get into a world of trouble. That's the lesson I've learned, at least this last year.
Well, I think some of these people, and this is what you got to watch out for, and especially when you get to the level of like you or Clint or Pete or Dave, some of these people aren't looking to be your friends. They're looking to leverage your popularity into their own popularity.
Right.
And that's not the right way to think about it. Like, I'm completely comfortable with knowing that I only talk to a specific audience, and I'm good with that. I've even told people not to listen to my podcast, like, because I am a blue collar guy. I speak to a blue collar audience. I have a very rough way of addressing things. I am very blatant. I'm very blunt. I will cuss you out in a heartbeat because that's just what I am. I'm Southern. I'm blue collar. That's who I am. I'm not for everybody, and I don't want to be for everybody. I never wanted to be for everybody. I started recording my podcast to make record for my kids to turn back to, of the things that I was going through in my head, the thoughts I was going through. I started podcasting because my wife got tired of me talking to her about it. Like, she was like, I don't care. I don't want to hear this shit anymore. Like, she's totally apolitical. She just doesn't give a shit. And that's great. Like, fine. You know? So it's, you have to watch those people trying to leverage what popularity you have into their own popularity. And I think that's what a lot of people have run into. And I've made friends over the years. And so, you know, people like you or Pete or Scott know who I am. Like, y'all know me. You're like, all right, yeah, this dude don't give a damn one way or the other about if he's popular or not. But I can understand if I just approach somebody that's never heard of me before or doesn't know anything about me, to be kind of cautious. Like, how close do I get to this guy? How do we interact with him? Like, what do I do? Like, and that makes sense, because you have to be aware of that, because people are going to try to utilize the more popular you get, the more people are going to try to utilize your name for their promotion and for their popularity. And you should be focused on that. What you should be focused on, at least what I think people should be focused on, is fighting the tyranny that we see coming down the pike. And it's like my popularity, whatever. If it gets there, it gets there. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's whatever, because it's about future generations. I have 5 kids, man. I'm pretty much set in my life. Like, whatever. I'm good. I have 9 acres. I have chickens, about to get some goats. I have a decent paying job. Like, I don't have to do this. I don't have to put my name out
3
there.
years worth of toilet paper stored in the closet.
Man, we're getting low. We're getting low. You'd be surprised how much a South African woman uses in toilet paper, man. But yeah, like, I don't need any of this. I don't need it. This is a project for me for something else, right? This is about my kids, my grandkids. I have a granddaughter now, you know, like, she'll be 3 years old this year. I have future generations to think of. My life is good. So you have to watch out for those people that are looking out for themselves. You really have to be careful with that. And I think that's something that a lot of libertarian podcasters are aware of. And I think they have a tendency to point the finger very quickly in the wrong direction. And we really need to focus on, instead of arguing amongst ourselves and chasing clout and trying to be the most popular, is figuring out, all right, like, who do I know who would listen to Reed's podcast and get something out of it, right? And who do I know that would listen to such and such's podcast, Timeline Earth or whatever, you know, like, and get something out of it. And that would speak to them. And then we work from there, and we try to, because what we're ultimately trying to do is become the mainstream. I mean, what else is the point of this? You're trying to become the mainstream. You're trying to overwhelm the corporate press. And a lot of us have forgotten that the target is not each other, that it's the corporate press. We're not competing with each other. We're competing with the corporate press. And in order to do that, we have to start looking, whether you're at the Libertarian Institute, you're not at the Libertarian Institute, wherever you're putting your podcast up at, we have to begin to interact with each other as if we're one community in the battle against the corporate press and their propaganda.
Yeah, I'm a weird guy, compared to, or at least like if you put me into today's society, I don't really fit in well. Like I'm a truck driver. I like being out in the woods. I like shooting guns. I'm not into a lot of the pop culture that has become mainstream today. So it wouldn't make sense that I would be a mainstream voice. Like, of course, I'm going to have kind of a niche audience. Like, I'm going to attract weird people who are kind of like me. And then, like you were saying, you're kind of the same way. And then, someone like Dave is, he's a comedian, and he knows like a lot of comedians who are prominent nowadays, and he's much more up to speed on pop culture. So obviously someone like him is going to have a much larger audience, and that's good. Like, I shouldn't be striving to have the same type of audience that Dave has, or that Larry Sharp has, or that you have even. Like, we have a lot of crossover, but I have my own personality, so my own audience is going to be just as unique as my personality, and that's good. Like, that's what you're trying to drive at, is that we're all going to attract different people, and we're going to tug on people's consciences and their logic in different ways, where it does seem like the goal of everyone has always been to kind of become Dave Smith. Like, well, you know what? You're not Dave Smith. Don't be Dave Smith.
Yeah.
You're not Joe Rogan. Don't be Joe Rogan. Be yourself. And if you really take off, great. But if you don't, like, maybe you weren't meant to take off. Maybe you were really meant to really attract this certain group of people, and nobody else can. So, I think you're right on when you say that. That's just so important.
Well, yeah. And like, look at it this way. Like, I published my podcast at the Libertarian Institute. I've been working with Scott for 3 years at the Libertarian Institute. I'd say 75% of my listeners, and I talk to my listeners. I regularly interact with my listeners because I want to know what they think. I want to know what I'm releasing and how they view what I'm releasing and what I'm doing and what subjects they're interested in. So I talk to my listeners constantly, and 75% of them don't identify as libertarians. Some of them consider themselves lefties, and so it's like, all right, like, I'm not targeting the same audience as you. I may have overlap with Kyle Kalinske too, for all I know. I don't know, but it's just be yourself, man. And yeah, you can't do anything about like these guys that are clout chasers. You can't do it. Yeah, you're not going to be able to identify them. There's the whole meme going around, and I'm responsible partially for this because I was joking with Odermatt about this a while back, about who was more of a Fed, the Lions of Liberty or the Libertarian Institute. And so there's a whole idea that the libertarian community has been infiltrated by Feds. Well, probably. Like, okay, like, what are you going to do? Like, it's just, okay, fine. We're talking. We're not violent. We're not out there doing anything crazy. So yeah, you know, if the feds have infiltrated the Libertarian Party, which I believe has been documented, they infiltrated the Libertarian Party in 1970s. So yeah, okay, fine, man. Who cares? Just do your thing. Talk to your base. Talk to your audience. Encourage the audience and other podcasters. We really need to get this stick out of our ass about working with other podcasters. We should really be promoting other people's stuff. Your parents are never going to listen to you. And I'm not talking you in general. I'm just King's you. Like, your parents are never going to listen to you. If you're releasing a podcast, share somebody else's podcast with your parents. Share another podcast with your parents that your parents might listen. Shit, my parents would probably be, well, my mom listens to my podcast, but she probably doesn't agree with me half the time because she's my mom. And if I cared to listen, she would probably argue with me. But the fact of the matter is, and she knows I feel that way. I love my mom. We're like best friends. So, but the fact of the matter is, like, Tom Woods might resonate with your parents, you know, like same general concept, same generation. So he might resonate with your parents. Whereas, like, you could share me with maybe, I don't know, some drunk on the side of the road. I don't know. But the fact of the matter, it's like, you got things you have to like measure this. You have to weigh it and measure it. Who's right for who, you know, and we're not all right for everybody, you know, and I'm very aware of that. I've been saying that for years. I'm not right for everyone. So it's like, whatever.
Yeah. It was so funny. I posted on, am I still coming through clear, by the way? I should just make sure.
You are, man. Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, I posted on Facebook, I don't know, a month or two ago that Saudi Arabia and Israel are considered some of our closest allies, but they're bigger liabilities than all the other, I said they're bigger threats to our national security than all the other countries in the world combined. And one of my friends that I've known for, I don't know, almost 20 years now, we didn't really talk politics much, but he knew what my politics were. He saw that, and it was really interesting to him. And so he sent me a message saying, "Hey, I'd like to see some of your podcasts or somebody else's podcasts or files or articles you can link me to try to understand what you're saying here." So I was like, "Oh, great." So I sent him one of the 4 Horsemen episodes I'd done. I sent him Scott Horton's debate with Bill Kristol, and I sent him like a whole bunch of stuff. And one of the videos I sent was me and Abby Martin. And I thought, like, there's no way in hell this is going to resonate with him, because this guy's like a hard right, like Christian conservative, like evangelical type. So there's no way he's going to like her. But I just sent all that stuff. And sure enough, he writes back, like, I watched everything, but the one that really stuck with me was the one you did with Abby Martin. And then I went and looked up Empire Files, and I watched her documentary Gaza Fights for Freedom. And that's like really changed my mind about what I think about the Israel-Palestine situation. And it was just crazy to me. And I even emailed Abby telling her, like, "Hey, I just wanted to share this with you, that this is what happened. And I thought this was crazy," because you just never know, like, who is going to resonate with whom. Like, you just don't, because you kind of think like, oh yeah, this guy's a right winger. He's a sort of Christian-like conservative. So maybe, like, out of the people I sent him, maybe like Tom Woods would be the most convincing, or maybe like Dave Smith is more like friendly with the right wing audience. But it was Abby Martin, and you just never know. So like you're 100% right. Just share everything. I mean, share everybody with everyone. Like, you don't know who is going to resonate with who.
Hey, if you want to resonate with a right winger, send them a smart, cute chick, and they're right on it every time.
Exactly.
There ain't nothing the right wingers like more than a cute chick.
That might have been the ticket right there.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I ever saw Abby Martin, I was like, I didn't watch her videos because I thought she was smart. I was like, oh, this chick's kind of cute. And then I was like, oh wow, she knows what the hell she's talking about too, you know. But yeah, so yeah, no, that's awesome though, you know, and that's what it boils down to, you know. One thing libertarians make a mistake on. Libertarians think, I don't know where this comes from. But they think that people should be spending all their spare time reading. All right. I didn't start reading all this stuff until I went through my second divorce and I didn't have my kids with me. Well, I needed something to take up my time. So I started reading. Right. But when you're raising kids and you're working, 60 hours a week, you're not going to do all this reading. Quit acting like people have to read the same things you have to read. They don't have to have the same level of knowledge to come to the same conclusions. This is why like people like Glenn Beck and Alex Jones are so popular. They're basically tell their audience, I read it so you don't have to. That's what you should be telling people. Like, you don't tell people like, well, if you want to know, yada, 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 you need to go read these 500 books. Okay. Yeah, fine, motherfucker. I'll just be a Republican or a Democrat then, because fuck your 500 books. Because that's what they're thinking. They're like, yeah, you fucking smug son of a bitch. I'm not going to go read your fucking books. I ain't got time. I barely have time to eat dinner and fucking get a decent night's sleep. That's what they're thinking. So, like, you got to stop that. Well, if you study 12 hours a day after you work 12 hours a day, yeah, like, all right, whatever. Yeah, sure, libertarian. I'll do that right now. It's just not going to happen. That's not the way you approach people.
I remember I was on Nick Ashley's show. We were talking about this, and he was saying that, like libertarians tend to read their way to libertarianism. And I was not one of those people. I mean, I didn't read any libertarian theory until last year. And I mean, I was very well versed in how the philosophy worked, but I never read Anatomy of the State or For a New Liberty or, Economy and State or anything until last year. And you don't, I mean, it's, my dad's an English teacher and he talks about like, you have to know the rules in order to write, but then you're sort of supposed to like leave the rules behind and turn turn your writing into a masterpiece, try to actually hook people and pull them in. If you're still focusing on the dangling participle instead of realizing like, what emotions you're trying to tug at or what logic you're trying to change in someone, then you've kind of missed the point. And people are like that with libertarianism. Like they're still like nose deep in a book that Rothbard wrote decades ago, and they can't relate it to what's going on now. Like they can't be normal humans. They can't translate it into everyday life and try to explain it to, some plumber. Like, why should he care what Rothbard said? Well, this is why, like show him something in his life that would be affected by this philosophy in a way that he can understand.
Right.
So you're right. Like I mean, Jeremy Todd, I forget the name of the book he says you're supposed to read. How to win friends and influence people. Like he was saying, libertarians should be reading that book by Carnegie more than they should be reading Anatomy of the State by Rothbard. And I think he's right. Like we have the nerdiness down, knowledge.
Who else says that?
Who's that?
You'd be shocked. Andrew of Popular Liberty.
Well,
he says the same thing. He says the same thing. Libertarians should be reading How to Win Friends and Influence People and not Anatomy of the State. And here's my thing. Like you were telling me how your dad addressed it from an English background. I've been writing since I was 12 years old. And I've always addressed it was the Finding Forrester method. And Sean Connery had this really great line in Finding Forrester that I never forgot was write with your heart, edit with your head. So like put it out there. Like, get emotional and put it all out there. Get the emotion out there. Like, put out what it is that you want the audience to feel when they read your writing, and then come back and think your way through how to articulate it in a way that is relatable. But you always write with your heart first. And I've found that when I write, like I just released an article last week at the Libertarian Institute and Grand Theft World and on my Substack. And what I find is when I sit down and I just write and then I read through it, I'll find the way to move the sentences around properly. If I try to think my way through it, it never gets done. It never gets done because people act on emotion. They don't act on theory or philosophy. They act on emotion. This is the big struggle that libertarians have. They can't get people to act the way they want them to act. And why is that? Because they are talking as autists. Stop being an autist and start being a fucking human, and you will get people to act.
Yeah, no, that's it, man. That's it right there. I mean, you know, I like having you as a fellow podcaster because, like I said earlier, so many podcasters are people who either have like some sort of white collar corporate job that they have time to, you know, they have time to read all their articles and get it ready for their podcast. But having people like you and me who are out there in the field all day and we understand this shit, and we see how it affects our everyday lives, and then being able to just, you know, open the computer and talk about it, I think that really has a lot of value. And you're right. Like, we really need to be, we need to be sharing each other's approaches with our friends instead of just ours. Like, if you're just pouring all your podcasts to your friends and they're just not resonating with them, try somebody else, you know, try Clint from Liberty Lockdown or Jose or Popular Liberty or Pete or whoever, because you never know who's going to break through. And, you know, I think the value of this kind of new surge of podcasters that we're seeing is there are like a lot more normal people. Like, typically podcasters have been kind of like the upper echelon, more intellectual type, but with this new wave of libertarian podcasters, I'm seeing like more and more regular people start to fill the ranks. And that gives me a lot of hope because I think those people are going to resonate with the public better than some of the really smart people from the past have, especially with how crazy everything is now. Like, right now is the time to draw people toward this content.
Well, and you're a lot like me. Like, you don't depend on your own, you know, intellect to sell your podcast. You're doing interviews with other people. You're trying to find other people that can. So, I mean, a lot of my friends and family listen to my podcast, and a lot of it, the reason they do is because I'm talking to people smarter than myself. Right. And I approach it as I'm talking to people smarter than myself. And they can see that whenever I'm doing my podcast, because when I engage in conversation, it's always the same. I'm always Tommy just engaging in a conversation. It's never like I'm never trying to act smarter than I am or like I know more than I do. And I work hard on my podcast. I'm sure you work hard on yours. I mean, given your job, I mean, like, I was over the road. I know what it's like. It's not easy. I remember stopping halfway through the day and interviewing Michael Rechtenwald at 3:00 in the afternoon, you know, like, and then as soon as I get off that podcast, I got to save it to my computer, throw my computer in the back, jump back in the driver's seat and take off and drive for another 3.5, 4 hours, you know? So, and I wake up in the morning hours before I have to go to work, and I read for 2 hours every morning. I'm reading, you know, and I'm just constantly focused on it. So like we are working at it. we are trying to move ourselves forward in the process. But when you're working 60, 70 hours a week, it's not easy. It's not like you're not doing it. You're basically doing it because you enjoy it. Like really. Because if you didn't, it would be so easy to just be like, fuck it, man. I don't need this. It's a lot of stress. There's a lot of work that goes into it. I work an additional, I'd say 30 hours a week on my podcast and writing and working on that on top of working a full-time job, and it's not something I have to do. Plus I'm married, and my kids are pretty much grown. I mean, they haven't lived with me for a few years. So they're in Houston and I'm down here, but still, I still have to keep the relationship up, which I'm horrible about. And it's not because they're my kids. I'm just horrible about phone conversations and keeping in touch with people that way. It's just not natural to me. And a lot of times it's them messaging me going, "Hey Dad, how's it going?" And I'm like, "Oh shit, what's up?" Because I'm just completely oblivious to life in general. And so it takes a lot of focus. It takes a lot of work. Everything. It's all like constant work. I'm raising chickens. I got my dogs. I got 9 acres. It's a lot of work. I'm putting in to all my other projects outside of my full-time job. And a lot of people don't understand or respect what people like you or I are doing in getting these podcasts out. I'm doing 2 a week, and that's a lot of work for me. That's a lot of additional work that sometimes I come in here to upload a podcast and I'm just like, man, okay, what could I have done in these 4 or 5 hours that isn't getting done? And I have to do it. Like today was my day off. So I got up this morning. I had a couple of cups of coffee. I went to the post office. I went to the grocery store. I went to the feed store. I came home. I cleaned my wife's truck, did the inside of her truck. And then I came inside. I started recording podcasts at 1 in the afternoon. And here we are, at 10 o'clock at night. It's just, that's my day off. It just nonstop. And so we're constantly working, and there should be like, there's got to be some recognition from other people that look, it's not my thing, but this thing belongs to other people and speaks to others, because we're doing that. And I've been doing this for 2018. I started recording podcasts. So, I learned a lot. I was horrible at the beginning. You think I stumble over my words right now? You should have heard me at the beginning.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's funny. I know I get shit for what my hair looks like and crap like that, but when you there's been times it was funny hearing you say oh, I'd have to stop at 3 and record a podcast with whoever and then throw the computer in the back and keep moving. It is exactly like that. I mean, so many of my interviews there, as soon as I get home or as soon as I stop the truck in the truck stop, a bunch of my videos from earlier on, my hair was wet and everyone kept asking me why is your hair always wet? And it's well, I just got home and jumped in the shower and then went right on the podcast, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But
right now your hair is frozen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because you were sweating in sub-zero temperatures. So now you just got frost hanging from your eyebrows. But no, it's there's no appreciation for that aspect of the podcasting community. And I think the work that we're doing will make a difference. And you and I may never be like what can be of podcasting and what it can become. But one day there's going to be that person that's going to be like, these guys paved the way. Like these guys did the hard work, back in the day so that we can continue this, legacy into the future. And that's kind of what we're doing. Like I said, mine started off more as a diary. I just wanted my kids to know the kind of things I was thinking about and talking about. And it just turned into a thing. It was kind of by accident.
Yeah. Well, I've got the link to your podcast in the description, but what have you got coming up? I know you got some things cooking. You got one of my friends coming on soon. What's in the future for you?
Yeah, actually, I got 2 of your friends coming on soon. So right now, if anybody listens to my podcast, they will hear me talk about RyanBunting.com a lot. Well, Ryan Bunting is one of my best friends, and my wife actually met him when they were working together on a campaign. Not Jorgensen. Who was the guy before Jorgensen that ran for president?
Gary Johnson.
No. It was the guy Jorgensen beat out. Can't think of
Hornberger.
Hornberger. Thank you. Yeah. So they were working together on Hornberger's campaign. And so he does a lot of he works with me a lot on technical issues. And so he's also did my podcast logo. I always mention that. Well, he's gone full time. So he and I are working together on putting together a series on Discord under the Year Zero Discord page. And what we're going to do is we're going to have people, and I've already gotten a couple of people, including Shane Hazel, to agree to come in and do this. We're going to be teaching people skills. It's going to be free of charge. It's going to be kind of like Skillshare. It's going to be completely open source and completely free. So for people that are looking to learn new skills, maybe you want to change jobs, y'all can come over to the Discord, and we're going to have live streams going on maybe once a month, maybe twice a month. It just depends on how it works out. And but we're going to save those videos of those live streams where we teach different skills, where there's different computer skills, or like I'll have Shane Hazel will be doing carpentry, things of that nature. And you'll be able to come and you'll be able to learn at least the basics. You may not be a master freaking carpenter by the time it's over with, but you'll know how to put something together. You'll understand the basics and you'll be able to get started. So we got that in the works. That's something that I'm really excited about. And that's going to be launching this year. We're going to be getting off the ground. And so I'm really excited about that. But yeah, this Friday I record with Eric Jackman. And then in a couple of weeks, I will be recording with Kim Iverson. I also have episodes pre-recorded with Dan Smots. Will be out this week. I just recorded with James Yohe, which will be coming out early next week. And then I did an episode with Mike Meharry, who's a great friend of mine, and I love Mike to death, and Caleb Brown. And that episode is going to be Christianity and Libertarianism, will be coming out towards the end of next week. And I have an upcoming interview with Tom DiLorenzo. So yeah, we got all kinds of things going on. And damn, I'm busier than I thought I was.
Yeah, well, definitely go subscribe, or I guess you don't subscribe, but go follow, whatever you call it. Go follow his podcast. I've got the link in the
Year Zero, libertarianinstitute.org/year-0/. And make sure you put that last / in there, or you will not find it. But it is there. It is libertarianinstitute.org/year-0/. And you will find me. and then whatever my Twitter handle is, which I don't really promote my Twitter, so who cares?
That's in the description too. You got to come up with like a little song for your web address there. You could do like year dash, zero. You just got to come up with something.
Yeah, maybe I should. Yeah, it took me forever to figure out that last dash, and that's why I make sure I say it, because it's like I kept doing it, and I was like, why is this not working? What did Harley do? Like, he messed this up, and then I realized, oh, you put that last dash in there, and it works. And I'm like, all right,
yeah.
So, but yeah, man, this was fun. This went by quicker than I thought. I was talking a lot, I guess.
They always go They always go fast. I don't know. I like talking to you, man. We'll have you back on again for sure.
You'll be on mine soon. In February. In February, we're gonna work it in where I can get you in there.
All right, for sure, man. I think Thursday I've got Justin O'Donnell and Joe Evans coming on the show, and then next Tuesday we got Scott Horton coming back to talk about Ukraine and Russia. If we haven't already done something retarded by then, hopefully not. But
we're not all nuked by then. We might be all dead by then.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe that's the thing to hope for. Maybe that's just easier. But
no, I'd rather listen to Scott talk than be dead.
Yeah, me too. Just
and I love Justin too. Justin O'Donnell's a great guy too. So
yeah, he is. Yeah,
great.
So like I said, subscribe to me on Odyssey, guys. That's in the description. And yeah, follow Tommy, and we will catch you guys on the next stream.